Welcome back. Mr. Elbara, you were talking about the efficacy of this policy, cashless policy. How can we, I wanted to ask, how can we get out of this? Or what's the best way or best thing we can do? Seeing that we want to implement this policy, that's supposed to be a very good policy.
Yes. What we can do, and I've said it time without number, is that the CBN needs to be monitored by both the National Assembly and even the executive. Because we do not have to allow CBN to be a sovereign entity within Nigeria. So when it comes up with this type of policies, it allows the public to debate it, discuss it, and because it's not an island of knowledge. So that when people discuss it and the experts bring expert knowledge and the ideas, then they marry this into the policies. But just come and make an announcement, and without taking into cognizance the views of the public. So in the United States, the so-called the center of capitalism, I will tell you that Congress does not allow the Fed to just come up with any policy and just throw it at the people. The Congress, actually, the specific committees in Congress will invite the Fed chairman to appear before it, and they will scrutinize the policy and allow people to make inputs. Because you are the engine room of the economy. It is the lifeblood of the economy. Money is what decides our future and our present. So what I'm trying to say in essence is this. You know, in the fractional reserve banking system, that is a modern banking that came into being in the 17th century, depositors and withdrawers, you are not meant to pay. It is the money that you deposit that is lent to borrowers, and the profit is supposed to be shared between the bank and the depositor.
Okay. So, if I may come in here, how do you expect that the public or the government institutions or Congress, the Nigerian Congress, which we call our National Assembly, for instance, would enforce that charges are not placed on the depositors or the bank users, when the institution of the National Assembly, the ministries and agencies have been exempt from this cashless policy?
That's another question. But let's put it in this way. Whether they are exempted or not, what is important is that there are two sections of the CBN Act of 2007 that are mandates the governor to appear before the National Assembly, and then mandates the governor to appear before the specific committees of the National Assembly. Section 8, subsection 4, A and B, makes it mandatory that he must appear before National Assembly at least twice in a year to tell them what the policies the bank is promoting and why these policies are good for the economy. Section 8, subsection 5B, insists that the relevant committees in the National Assembly should from time to time invite the governor, not the deputy governor, to appear before them and intimate them, and they can ask him several questions, and they can ask him to withhold that policy or to stop that policy because it's not in the interest of the nation. But what the CBN governor has been doing, and I've been saying time without number, his natural constituency remains the banks. So everything he does is to help the banks, not to help the public, which would have been the other way around. So that's why I've come up with a CBN Act, amendment to CBN Act of 2007, where I said, look, we must make sure that the appointment of CBN governor should not just be, by the time you appoint him, give you a free will. We should ensure that CBN governor, if he's not doing very well, we don't need 2 thoughts for him to be removed. The president of the country can suspend the CBN governor indefinitely until he reviews his activities and things like that. So that the governor should know that those who are elected are those that the people, that the electorate has responsible. It's not an appointed man who has no person to report to. I mean, at the end of the day, he can walk away, and the problem remains with the people and the government in power.
Mr. Ramura, just before you go, We know for a fact that when this policy was first mooted, the CBN and even the banks were on a, big roadshow dealing with especially small-time traders, small-time business people, explaining to them the benefits of a cashless economy. But down times got them all cynical and despondent. They all have got their POS machines, which they could not use most of the time because of power outages. They could not charge they could get the machines charged. And even when they tried to use them, connections were bad. Internet connections were not in their favor. So we know for a fact that a lot of them don't actually have a lot of confidence in this system. Now, this policy is now being widened to the rest of the country, smaller towns in the country. How do you see this playing out?
That's a beautiful question you raised, because if you didn't raise this question, I wouldn't have provided an answer to something very important. You see, now that the CBN has given the banks 60% of whatever the charges they impose on depositors and withdrawals, it might be difficult for the POS, the point of sale, or POP, the point of charges, or purchases, sorry, to work. When they don't work now, the traders are forced to bring in cash to the banks. And when they are forced to bring in cash to the banks, they are charged above 500 if they're individuals anyway, and if they're corporation, which you know that most of the traders don't have registered companies. So they are charged this money. So this is the problem that we have to think through. If a pump seller, a petroleum seller, he will now come to the bank to deposit 10 million and discover how much he's losing, are you encouraging him to continue to sell petroleum petrol to people without adding extra charge? So these are the problems. But that's an important problem I want to point to Nigerians here, which Nigerians don't know. And it's very, very, very critical. Do you know that if you allow banks to, if we go through with this e-payment, e-transfer, banks can conspire, come together and say, you know what, a bank that has 1 trillion depositors' money and another one has 1.5 trillion, they can say, we can give each other 50% or 30% extra. So you loan money you don't have, because there's no way you save fiscal cash. The money is not in their vault. The money is not with CBN. So it has happened in the United States, which means banks can loan money they don't have because there are no traces to the cash. So this is another thing that we have to be careful about, because this can create liquidity